Peacemaker, Season 2, Episode 4. This is going to be a full breakdown and review of the latest episode. But before we get into anything, guys, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, hit that noti bell. Alright, as I said, Peacemaker, Season 2, Episode 4. This is coming out literally a week after the episode aired, and that's honestly for a couple of reasons. The biggest reason being, and I've definitely seen this sentiment echoed online, and that's that Season 2 is definitely, I don't want to use the word disappointing, and I also don't want to say boring. However, if I compare it side by side with Season 1, it just does not measure up at all. In my opinion, this season has definitely been dragging on. The last episode felt so short, but also so long at the same time. And what I mean by that is obviously the runtime was incredibly short. However, the scenes felt like they dragged on so long. And again, I feel like almost nothing happened. So instead of it being a long episode, feeling quick, and it feeling like a lot happened, but you got a lot of story beats as well, which I feel like every episode in Season 1 was like that. This episode just dragged on and almost nothing eventful happened. Now, obviously, we get Argus and the team going to Peacemaker's house. John Economos does warn him ahead of time, so Peacemaker is able to get out of there, and he's being chased by the Eagle Hunter, Judo Master. He gets into a little bit of a confrontation with Judo Master and inevitably defeats him, and Eagly is saved by John Economos. That was a little funny moment there when John Economos just hit that guy over the head, knocked him out, and then he said his third eye awakened. Again, when I first saw this, I just thought that guy was a complete joke. As we find out later in the episode, he does actually have some sort of spiritual abilities. I believe it's called something with the blue power. It's something, if you dive deep into the comics, there's the blue, the red, and I believe the green. That's normally the man thing is the green. So if it could lead to us exploring those type of things, then I will say Season 2 has drastically improved. However, as of right now, it's just definitely, it's dragging on a lot. And I think there are two big reasons for this. And reason number one is, in comparison to Season 1, there were really no expectations for Season 1. I don't know about the rest of you, but I went into Season 1 expecting absolutely nothing. And by the end of Episode 3, I was hooked on the series. I thought it was great. Vigilante, amazing. Peacemaker, great. Characters I care about. Economos, Hardcore, Adebayo. These were all characters that are very low-level characters that I was made to care about, and I wanted to see their story progress. Versus in this season, that's not the case. Many of the characters we know and love either get sidelined or they're not together. And I think that's the other really big piece about this, is instead of having Hardcore and Adebayo, Peacemaker, Vigilante, everyone on the same team, John Economos, that good amount of banter between Vigilante and him, between Peacemaker and Vigilante, or even that little improv scene that John Cena did when he was naming all those different people about who John Economos could have framed instead of his father in Season 1. Those were all great scenes, and it deepened the characters, and it made us care about them more and made us care about the dynamics between the characters. Versus now, you're introducing characters that, again, I don't know if this is the wide conceived notion between everyone online, but for me at least, I don't care about pretty much any of these characters outside of Rick Flag Sr. Everyone else that was added, I don't care about. And Judo Master coming back, I don't care about that character at all. In my opinion, they didn't need to come back, and I feel like the screen time being dedicated to that character over a character like Adrian Chase is just a real shame, and I think it's really hurting the show. That being said, I think another thing that is hurting the show, and this isn't just me as a huge fanboy of Vigilante, obviously I've said before, he's my favorite character in this series, but the dynamic between Peacemaker and Vigilante was definitely a highlight for almost everyone from season 1. And the fact that season 2 really hasn't had a ton of that, and if it has, it's been very sparingly. I think that's been a huge mistake, and that's a huge reason why this season isn't being received nearly as well as the first season. It's definitely lost a lot of its mystique, and we really don't understand after episode 4 what the hell is the point of this season so far. I know they have that the doorway to the other world, and they're gonna be kind of pursuing that, and Peacemaker's going to go back to that world, but I feel like, especially with episode 4, it was a wasted episode. I feel like almost everything that did happen in this episode could have and should have been handled in about 10 minutes. And then we should have driven the plot forward and moved the story along to whatever is going to be the end game. Because now you have episode 5, 6, 7, and 8 to introduce what the main story is going to be, whatever is going to be that big threat. We're 4 episodes in and we're still not clear what that's going to be. Versus, again, season 1, we already had the butterflies. We already had Peacemaker's dad. So those were 2 antagonists that we already knew about by this point in time. And not only that, by episode 4 of last season, we already were getting the team dynamic of them all together and exploring the relationships between all the characters. So again, that's why I say just comparing it to season 1, and again, that might not be fair, but for there to be a season 2, there needs to be a story worth telling. And in my opinion, as much as I hate to say this, season 2 so far doesn't really seem like it's a story worth telling. Now, the latter half of the season could totally prove me wrong. It could end up being way more enjoyable. But again, right now, there's just really not much going on. We had them invading with Argus. Peacemaker gets out of there. John Economos is buying Peacemaker time so that he can reopen the door somewhere else, because apparently that's something that they can do. You do get that little interesting thing where Peacemaker says his dad had them move it before, and he made him and his brother do it because the dad was too worried about what would happen, so he didn't want to risk his own life. But really, aside from that and the little bit we get with Vigilante and Peacemaker, almost nothing happened of significance in this episode. We do get Rick Flag going to Harcourt and trying to recruit her, telling her that, hey, you've been blacklisted, you're never going to get a job again in the government in any sort of capacity. That was Amanda Waller's doing. Now, he is doing this to back her into a corner, and I feel like personally, he may have had a hand in it too. I think it was Amanda Waller, but I think he's also doing something too to get Harcourt to help him with his end goal, which that's capturing Peacemaker. And as we saw from the end of this episode and also for the teaser of the next episode, she is going to lure Peacemaker somewhere and selfishly try to set him up solely so that she can regain a position, very likely within Argus. And personally, I think that's a huge character regression. I do know that throughout this season, she has been going through some things, fighting a lot of people, which again, I don't care about a lot of that. I think seeing it once was enough, but the fact that they keep doing that, I get that she's going towards a downward spiral, and they just want to keep showing that. And maybe that's somewhat of a justification for her ending up betraying Peacemaker. But even that being said, I think it's just a really big character shift from the end of season 1. She grew to care about him, and something did happen between the two of them off screen on the boat. What that is, we're not sure. Obviously, we can kind of surmise what that could be and hypothesize together about what that ended up being. It was very likely something intimate. Obviously, Harcourt does regret it, and Peacemaker wants to talk things out about it. Harcourt never shows any interest in that, and instead is just going through this progression of self-loathing. And then by the end of the episode, she does decide to take Rick Flag Sr. up on his offer, and she is going to go after Peacemaker. She's going to set him up. Now, obviously, I think this is going to lead to the interrogation scene between Rick Flag Sr. Peacemaker. Again, I think that will be what happens in episode 5. I don't see Rick Flag Sr. being the end-all be-all villain. He will not be the main antagonist. I'm still thinking that it is going to be something with the other universe. And I really do think that universe is being set up to be something to where the Axis powers did win World War II, and it going a little bit beyond that to the point where the crime syndicate will be introduced at the end of the season. And I think that could lead into Superman, Man of Tomorrow. That could also be why James Gunn teased Peacemaker and Vigilante will be appearing in future projects. That could set that up really nicely. Again, I feel like other characters being introduced before that would be better, but to each their own. I'm still really excited to see what they do with it. That being said, this episode is probably my least favorite of this season, and definitely of the entire series. I'm really hoping that going forward, the episodes are slightly longer and also are more story oriented, because a lot of this episode, the banter didn't hit between characters because it's not characters we care about. Between Judo Master and I don't even know the other characters' names because I don't care about them. The Eagle Hunter, I don't care about him. The only aspect of that character that I care about at all is when he showed that he can use some sort of blue power, and maybe that could have a connection to the red and to the green. But outside of that, I don't care about any of those characters aside from John Economos that are with Argus. So I'm really hoping that they do dive more into Peacemaker, Vigilante, Adebayo, and Economos and have them be the center of the story. Obviously Harcourt as well, but I want the 11th Street kids back together and actually doing things together, going on missions together, solving things together. That's what I wanted from this season, especially with how the last season ended and with how everyone was willing to sacrifice things for each other. But let me know what all you guys think down in the comments below. And while you guys are down there, like this video, subscribe to the page, hit that noti bell, and I'll see all of you in the next video. Goodbye.